Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Today is a new episode of Steinway Sundays with Susan. It's only Susan today. That's me. Usually it's Steinway Sundays with Susan and Svetlana. But today I have a special guest. And the guest is the Grammy-nominated composer, Ilya Levinson. And Ilya and I go back quite some years. I have met him here in Chicago through a mutual friend and colleague, David Yonin, the distinguished violinist. And I began performing his music. The first piece I ever performed of Ilya's was his shtetl scenes with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra's chamber music series at the Art Institute. So that was my first experience playing the music of Ilya Levinson, and it's just continued since then. And today, right now, I'd just like to introduce to you Ilya Levinson. Hi, Ilya.
Hello.
So good to see you here, and I'm really excited about what we're going to discuss today. I was just telling our listeners and viewers that you and I go back some years, and we're introduced by David Yonin. And the first piece I ever performed of yours was your shtetl scenes.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to just tell us a little bit more about your background. You know, I mentioned that you're Grammy nominated. Tell us, the audience and viewers, what you were nominated for.
Well, I'm music director, pianist, and arranger of a new Budapest Orpheum Society. It's a group of Jewish cabaret. We are artists and residents at the University of Chicago Division of Humanities. And our artistic director is Philip Bollman, who is a world-famous scholar of Jewish diaspora. And we perform songs written by Jewish composers and Jewish, on the lyrics of Jewish poets. And those are cabaret songs, and cabaret makes the world upside down. So we perform songs of a German cabaret of 1920s, 1930s, like Kurt Tucholsky and Hans Eisler, and Friedrich Hollander and Hermann Leopoldi. And we recorded this CD, Jewish song of a stage and film, As Dream Falls Apart, and we were nominated for this CD in 2016, Grammy nominated.
It was a wonderful, wonderful CD, and I voted for it. It should have won. It should have won the Grammy. But you know what? You were in such excellent company, and these days, just to even get a Grammy nomination, it just puts you way up there in the stratosphere. Yeah. But now going back just a little bit about our relationship in collaboration, it started out with the shtetl scenes, which was a solo piano piece, which I asked you to score for a chamber music ensemble so I could perform it with the CSO. And it's such a huge hit. The thunderous applause for that piece, which was premiered in its chamber version for the CSO's chamber music series, it's just ever indelibly printed in my brain and my ears, you know, and it's been a repeated pleasure to perform that piece so many times. And you have subsequently revised it and also created other versions, including not just the trio version. No, you had done it originally as a quartet, but then you did it as a trio. And then, and the original quartet was with a double bass and French horn, violin, and piano. Well, I love that scoring. And yet I've also, put it on my recent American Melting Pot CD in the trio format, in the piano trio format. So in any event, since then, I also had the great pleasure of recording your elegy for violin and piano with David Yonin. And that's featured on our 4 Centuries CD. And to me, that's one of like the best recordings on the CD. I wish more people would know about it. So that's why I wanted to spread the word. You can hear this amazing piece. And the reason I bring up the elegy is that there's certain techniques and there's certain, because elegy is, basically paying homage to somebody and who's passed. And now we're going to talk about your new piano trio, which has also a tie to the netherworld, the afterworld, and the spirit and everything. And you know what? There's something unifying in all of your works, Ilya, which is the spirituality of it. And I'm always just totally enthralled, and I think it's your music is just so moving and spiritual, and it just really says something. So that brings us right now. What else have I played of yours? I know I've played some other pieces.
The Ghost Tango, actually.
Oh, that's right.
I think there's a ghost theme actually kind of going through. I did not realize
it. About that. We should have been programming this on the ghost-themed program. Which, so the whole reason we're having this discussion now is to get some people excited. And I'm actually multi-streaming this to several Facebook accounts and to my YouTube. Next Sunday is going to be the last performance of my Music with a View concert series at Sheridan Music Studio in downtown Chicago. And we will be having an in-person audience, so you can purchase tickets on in.live to be, if you pay the little higher price, you get to come in person. If you want to just see it virtually, you can get on and watch the virtual live concert. This is not going to be pre-recorded. It's going to be live as it's happening, live streamed on in.live. And this will be next Sunday at 2 p.m. And the performance will be a ghost theme, which will feature the Dybbuk piano trio. So we're going to get to talk about the Dybbuk in a minute, but I'll just mention in passing, the other work on the program is Beethoven's Opus 70, number 2, the Ghost Trio. And yours truly will also insert a little piece by William Bolcom called The Ghost Rag. So this is a really, really exciting and very, very moving program. And now I'd just like to turn our attention to your trio. And I'd love for us to first let people know what this trio is based on. Would you like to tell everybody?
Sure. First, to mention that it's a piece that I dedicated to you, Susan, and it's the first original piece of music. I'm so happy that I finally had time and to write a piece for you.
I'm so honored. I mean, I'm really touched. Wait a minute. We're also forgetting you wrote Fireball for my pianissimo ensemble. That was an original work. Right. And about 2 years ago, you did a Hanukkah medley for me and Steve. Right. To perform, which went over so beautifully. So let's talk now about this Dybbuk trio, which you've dedicated to me. I'm just tickled pink and so honored, and having such a great time learning it, studying it, and rehearsing it with Alex Kaufman, violinist, and your own wife, Martine Benman, the cellist. So let's go back now to when you first got the first inspiration and when you started thinking about it and working on it and how it's evolved.
Yes. So the play Dybbuk, or Between Two Worlds, is written by Solomon Ansky, or his original name is Solomon Zanvil Rapoport. 1863, he was born in Russia, in Vitebsk, and died in 1920 in Warsaw, Poland. And so he was also collector of folk stories. And so Dybbuk is a spirit that possesses a body of a living person. So just to tell you the plot of this, this play is well known, and basically Ansky is known for this play, and it's translated in many languages. And the story is about a young woman, Leia, who on her day of wedding is possessed by Dybbuk. And this spirit is a poor yeshiva student, Chonen, who actually was, it's kind of complicated. So Leia's father, Sender, a rich merchant, had a friend when they were young people, and they get separated, but they made a pact that when if one of them will have son and another one will have daughter, the children get married. So
they made a shidduch before their kids were even born.
Yes, they made this agreement. So, and this agreement was broken, and it turns out that this poor yeshiva student Chonen was a son of friend, also who died, friend of Leah's father, and as it turns in heaven, the promises need to be kept, and the spirit of Dybbuk goes into Leah's body, and though the sender, Leah's father, asks the Rabbi Israel to exhort the spirit, Leah dies, and she and Chonen unites.
Yeah, so I think also in the story, as I read the synopsis, it was that Chonen died first upon hearing that Leah's father basically promised her hand in marriage to someone else.
To someone else.
He died. I guess he was just totally distraught, and he was in love with her. Mm-hmm. And later we find out at the end of the movie that Leah was in love with him.
Yes.
Upon her wedding day and evening, she's lying there thinking of him, and basically she dies too.
Yes.
From heartache. And then, so they are eventually reunited. So while, interestingly also was that Conan's father wanted to sue Leah's father for breaking the promise and the contract they had together, but the rabbis stipulated you cannot promise something that doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. So they made this pact, this shidduch, before their children were even born.
Right.
And so technically he didn't, but they made the Leah's father say Kaddish for the departed, the Conan, and they made him say that, and interest. So he did have to, atone for being, not entirely honorable, or at least, But what I found was interesting in reading the full synopsis was that they tried repeatedly to do the exorcism to get the Dybbuk, the soul of Canaan, out of Leah's body. They tried repeatedly, and he refused. The soul would not leave, so she was just basically possessed, and they had to go to some special, kind of witch doctor that there's a lot of mysticism, this whole concept of exorcism and spirits. I didn't really know that this existed in Jewish folklore.
In the Hasidic folklore. Now, the play that I actually wrote music, and it was twice, and is adaptation by Tony Kushner.
Okay.
So first, it was in 2004 when David Vinitsky, who was a director of Jewish Theater Project, he was a student at Northwestern, and this was his diploma work, and I connected with him, I think, through Maxwell Street Klezmer Band, through Lori Lipitz. I had a great work relationship with this band, and I wrote this music for the play in 2004. And to my great excitement, Jeremy Aluma, who is now director of Alliance for Jewish Theater, did also Dybbuk as his diploma work in DePaul in 2018. And Jeremy wanted lots of music, so I extended on what I had, and I wrote dances and just music for the play. And but actually, I like the music very much that I wrote in 2004, and I was thinking I should write a piece of chamber music. And but I was so busy with teaching and with other commitments. So finally, maybe this year of solitude and isolation allowed me to collect my thoughts, and I wrote this piece So this trio does not really follow exactly the plot line of
I see. Okay. That's important to know.
Yes.
And I think it's also important to note that a number of other composers had considered writing or did actually write music for this play. If one, I think, was Bernstein, Copland. Bernstein wrote a ballet version. Aaron Copland did. I had no idea. I didn't even know anything about this. But if we trace the roots to the Beethoven, the Ghost Trio, was named Ghost. So I imagine that there's been historically, a lot of music that has reference to spirits.
Yeah,
back religious times,
Last piece of Robert Schumann, Ghost Variations. And actually, yesterday I saw a production of Thompson Street Opera Company called Ghost Variations about the last days of Robert Schumann. And so the ghost theme is really in the air.
It's in the air. And not only that, there has been written an opera even by the same name, to Dybbuk.
Shulamit Ran. Oh, yes. One of my teachers. Yes.
Oh, wow. So actually you join a cohort of extraordinarily distinguished, famous composers with this new addition to a Dybbuk-themed trio. And in learning both your trio and the Beethoven Ghost Trio, which I've already knew and I've played many times, but in comparing them, actually there's certain similarities, compositional techniques and effects that are common to both works, although they're worlds apart.
Yeah, yes, surprisingly enough, I listened, actually this morning I listened to the Ghost Trio second movement. No, yesterday first time and second time this morning, and wow, the same timbral, the feature, the violin and cello are playing in octaves separated, creating this very eerie sound. So
yeah, it's and not only that, but the use of the bass of the piano with this rumbling that creates this tension and scary kind of atmosphere. And in watching the film, that very old film from 1937, which we can play a couple of excerpts for our viewers, that's itself has a certain kind of scary, ominous tone, but I don't know if it's because it's all like black and white, or because if it's the music, or certainly like the sound, the old sound. It's kind of a cross between a silent film and a. I mean, there's some music, there's some spoken word, there's also subtitles. I don't know at what point this was in the history of movies.
1937.
Yeah, but it seems, by today's standards, like a very old movie.
It's very old movie.
And when you watch it, you just feel like, wow, this is like ancient. I mean, It's not quite yet 100 years old, but it just as well may be.
But the story, the story is temporary, because unrequited love, one person dies, and
it's a love story.
Yes, it's a love story, and this is what I emphasize. This is what I'm tracing in my trio, the love story between John and Leah.
Yes. And I think every major opera involves both love and death, and so many works, love and death, whether it's Wagner or Liszt, or these are the two most common themes of music that has some kind of programmatic
of human life.
Exactly. And what's particularly fitting about playing this now is that we are coming upon, or approaching, hopefully, God willing, the end of a worldwide pandemic, during which time millions of people have died prematurely from a horrific disease. And so I feel like, we've all gone through a tremendous amount of suffering collectively, individually, from this past year. And a piece like this really can help, I think, help us heal, because it it demonstrates and illuminates the importance of love, and that that is what can triumph, even in the face of death. The notion that there is an afterlife, the notion that we can be united, and that love will essentially conquer all, even in the afterlife, in death. This is a story of that, of love continuing, and even under such dire circumstances, one has a sense of loss for both of the protagonists, but also a sense of relief that their love can continue and they can be together again. So
exactly, this is what I was thinking about in the last movement, the catharsis, and looking back and finding solace in the this fact that Chonen and Leia are together.
Yeah. Would you like me to pull up right now the score, and we can kind of talk about
we can talk about what?
Yeah, let me do that. I just have to find it. Window. Here we go. And this should show up.
Yeah, that's magic.
Does that look good? Okay. So at the opening here, your instructions indicate for the pianist to keep the pedal down from the very beginning. And I remember when I questioned you about this in the first, all the way to here.
Up to measure 12, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I questioned you about it because, I definitely wanted it to be more clean sounding. I was thinking and I didn't know what your intent was. And this one simple pedal marking, and this is, I think, highlights the importance of, and the greatness, the really special relationship that a performer has with a composer. The ability to work together on a piece and to know exactly what it is you want. With Beethoven, we only have a two-dimensional piece of paper, a score, and we don't even know what's the sound that he really wanted. It's all has to be interpreted through our own lens. But when I work with you, Ilya, I get to share with you my ideas, and you get to tell me directly what you have in mind, so that I feel that, this makes it possible to get your intentions as the composer, to really represent them in the best possible way. So here in the opening, it's very misterioso. I love your tempo indications are more like character indications. And the pedal is kept down through all of this.
Right.
And the use of your harmonics in the strings, I think, makes for a very sort of eerie and murky kind of feel.
It opens, the play opens with the Chonen in the temple in a synagogue praying. And it's an old synagogue, and this is what I wanted to portray: the space between the floor and the ceiling, the height, and it's all
the notes, and you have the very high notes, and
there's a couple of there's almost no light. And this is what all this, the atmosphere of half darkness, half light. The mystery, and Chonen is praying, and he thinks about Leia, how he can get her, but he realizes that he cannot, because her father Sender will never allow a poor yeshiva student marry his daughter.
Oh, that's a sad thing right there in of itself. I don't think parents should ever interfere in their children's in their love lives, social lives. I think everybody has to, be true to themselves to a certain extent. Although I think there isn't a parent alive who doesn't weigh in on their children's activities or choice of make. I don't think any parent can sit back and do nothing if they feel like their beloved child is picked the wrong mate. But that being said, there is something to be said for letting true love live. And so here now we approach, after we have this very murky and very heavily pedaled, I guess it also brings to mind the acoustical properties of a large space.
Yes, absolutely. That was my intention.
And yes, so when you hear a bell or an organ or any kind of instruments in a large space,
it's just a light. I mean, just speck of light that is going somewhere up and get lost.
Now, what happens here in the Animando? It starts with a little duet.
Those are Lei and Chonan. Those are two souls that are interacting, or it's in Chonan's mind. Leia comes. He envisions her.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire first part, I mean, there are 4 movements are all attack without interruption.
Yes.
So each of them comments on a particular element of the play. And the first one, I mean, Chonan dies at the end of the first act. So the first one is the most emotional movement, where there's a great contrast between dynamic, soft, and loud. And
it's really beautiful part writing, the duet between the violin and cello here, and then it increases in fervor, and the piano comes in forte here. And what do you think that the piano represents in this?
The piano, it's actually Chonan's theme.
Mm-hmm.
This triplet. You could hear my MIDI piano. So yes. That's a main theme of the spirit, or the theme of desire.
Uh-huh.
And so it goes to the climax, and after it is cut by this Hasidic melody. This is where Chonan learns about that Leia is promised to another man.
Oh, okay. Where is that in the?
I mean, at B.
At B. Dum bum bum.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So moving along. So we have that. This takes on with the piano, and when the bass starts bouncing around, it's definitely a very sort of lively and very Jewish theme sounding melody. And that then broadens out here in this fortissimo outburst.
Yeah, this is Chonan's reaction. I mean,
it's huge. Yeah.
In his mind, Leia is his, but in reality, it's not true, and he dies.
He's very upset.
Yeah.
And he dies from heartbreak.
Yeah.
And then this sounds like here, all of a sudden, there's a step back, and it's very pensive.
Here the mood alternates between the ferocious passion and introspection.
Yes.
And this is also 2 moods, yeah.
Yeah, so we also then have
and this is where Chonan dies.
Right here, this forte.
Yes.
Yeah, this is.
It's kind of it's very, very detailed, but in reality, I mean, music flows. And
yes, exactly.
Music does not stop. The flow of music does not stop.
I love your writing. The melodies are so beautiful here. And you have a lot of wonderful counterpoint. You have counter melodies in the piano right hand with, against the violin and with the cello, and it all just works and weaves together so beautifully. And then we see here, you bring back this little chromaticism, which is just sort of like a little bit of a blurry, tone, like a sound effect in the piano as we're winding down this section. And it's just very mystical, ethereal, and a little bit there is that tinge of little uncertainty, little bit of sadness and melancholy. But at a certain point in the piece, that changes. So we still have this same theme, da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-dum, and this continues with a lot of question and answer in the three instruments.
Yeah.
Now we have section F, the fugue.
Now we have a klezmer fugue, and I'm so happy that I could write a klezmer fugue. I'm fascinated with Maria de Buenos Aires and Piazzolla. I mean, there's a fugue in Maria de Buenos Aires, tango fugue, and I was thinking, can I write a klezmer fugue? So I was so delighted that I could write my klezmer fugue. So this polyphonic composition comments on how everything is intertangled in this world.
Yes.
The promise made in the past, there's a broken promise, and everything actually connects really well in this mystery. So this is a fugue where all the voices are three voices.
Yeah, the piano then finally comes in.
Yeah, and this is how everything is connected together. So it's comments on the complexity.
Yeah, and when I was first looking at this score, this seemed to me very reminiscent of Shostakovich's second trio, the E minor trio.
Sure. That's my bringing in Moscow.
Yeah.
It's flattering to be compared with Shostakovich. Yes.
Well, it definitely has that kind of textural sonority in the piano part, but of course it's uniquely you, Ilya. There's I could not point to any particular aspect of your music that is derivative per se of any other composer. It's just sort of maybe a little reminiscent of the compositional style, but your style is also uniquely your own, which I love.
Thank you.
But just so for listeners who may not be able to envision what the score sounds like from looking at it, it has a similar texture, I guess, as Shostakovich, and I believe this whole piece, as I'm scrolling through it for people to see, this whole work should just really become part of the piano trio canon. It's just wonderful. So this fugue constantly here's the theme in the piano. It's alternating, it runs itself through in different keys, and it keeps modulating and going through each instrument. And then we get to like a slowdown of it or augmentation. You combine da-dum, ba-dum. That interval of a fourth is also in consonance.
Yeah, I mean it's in the entire piece.
Yeah. So everything is so integrated and connected. So the piece is all feels like it's all in one movement with different sections.
Yeah.
Even if you conceived of it as separate movements per se, I can't imagine. It's not like a Beethoven trio where you can play one movement. You have to play.
You cannot.
You can't just get up and start this piece and have it make sense. Just start it in the middle of somewhere. Right. So I would like to show our listening viewing audience, the next section. So we kind of are winding down, and the texture thins out first to the two voices and then just little piano here. And we get to the insistent section. Now, is this the part that correlates with the Dance of the Poor?
Yes, it's the Dance of the Poor, and when Leia goes to the cemetery to invite her dead mother, and this is what Dybbuk enters the body of Leia, and at the end she dies, and in the last movement they unite.
Yeah, it's kind of like what is that that dance now? Dance macabre. I mean, it kind of it builds up of Saint-Saëns,
yeah,
right?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of starts out, it has this minor tonality, but it's so lively. So you don't. It's kind of twinged with, festivity at the same time, a little bit of darkness.
I mean, wedding's supposed to be a happy occasion, but not in this case for Leia.
Yeah, she's still mourning her beloved who's passed. So, and I don't know, are we supposed to know that she's mourning, or we don't find out till the end, until she just dies? And
I did not mean that this piece would be exactly following the text or the plot or the synopsis. In music, music just flows. It takes you on a journey.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt. You take an inspiration from the piece, and after you listen what the music is telling you.
Yeah, I love this particular theme. Da 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 ba ba da 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 da. It's so jaunty, and surprisingly, the piano just has the accompaniment, but boy, the piano part is so essential to providing like the underpinning of the character, of this whole piece. When this part I happen to love right here, in measure 178, when it starts getting faster and we're building up the tempo. It's so exciting, and I really can't wait till everybody gets to hear this live. And to me, when we get to this section J, it's here it's you throw away some of the the dissonances that we've heard in the slower sections, and this is where we find this very accessible kind of, I think it's very declamatory, dum bum da 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 da, and very klezmer-like here.
Yeah.
Very, very dance-like.
There was a klezmer band at the wedding. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love it. This section right here, where the piano gets the melody really low. But I will tell everybody, here's the hard section. These notes are going so fast, these chords. It's a challenge to play this piece. Just even if it's certain segments that are difficult, they're definitely a challenge for any pianist, and for the string players as well. I mean, just playing harmonics and getting, this piece goes very fast. I think, what is the tempo?
140.
Yeah, 100. Oh no, this one is 160.
160, yeah.
Yeah, and we can play it at 160. So it looks deceptively easy because it's all eighth notes, but it's very quick. And I love this part. For me, when we get to the section K here, the violin has in augmentation this melody soaring above, and the piano's just playing, pure accompaniment. Here's where the pianist gets to take it easy. It's not terribly difficult, although there's certainly some nice leaps and stuff in the left hand, but nothing extraordinarily difficult. But here's what I love, is this very long augmented melody in the violin against the da-dum ba-ba-dum 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 ba-bum ba-ba-bum.
I like contrapoint, and I try to use contrapoint.
Oh, it's
as much
just
as possible.
It's really, really great. And especially what I also like, they're going along, and then you give the piano takes over a little bit in this measure in 225, and at this point you take those eighth notes, and the piano and cello kind of have this really cool transitional effect with the staccato, and that completely sets up the underlying pulse in the left hand of the piano for the next section. So dum bum bum ba-da-dum ba-da-dum ba-dum. And so now the piano gets more of the theme and is also giving a substantial part of like a new rhythmic feel. And it's, to me, the writing and this, the way that this whole thing flows from one section to the other, it's just totally masterful, Ilya. I love here in the L section, the longing section, you bring in a new melody against the da-dum, da-dum, da-da-da-da-da in the cello. Right. And you have three things going on. You have the violin melody, you have the left hand, the cello, and then you also give the piano a little something melodic. Dum, ba, da, dum. So it's taking over like a little bit more of the augmented
right. Yeah.
augmentation in the right hand, keeping that like little staccato rhythm a little bit longer, and then gradually slowing it down to quarter notes, and then basically.
Yeah, this is Susan, this is one of the challenges of writing fast music. I mean, fast music is very easy to start, but how do you end?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you can end with a bang. I mean, the hard ending. But if you want to transition, you need to somehow slow down the effect.
Yeah,
and this is very challenging.
And it's very well written into the music, harmonically as well. And then this next section, Misterioso section, has fiendishly difficult passage, because of how it's not very fast. So it's actually not difficult at this point, but it's just atmospheric, right?
Yeah.
So I just start out by setting that atmosphere, and the violins and the cello come in con sordino. Would you like to tell our audience what that means?
It's with a mute, mute when they plays a piece on the bridge, and bridge does not vibrate that much, and the piano is written inside the space delineated by violin and cello, and I was particularly happy finding this effect because it's a question of space. You have something on the bottom, you have something on top, and you have a wash of sound and effect in the middle. Yeah, but I didn't realize how difficult it would be to put together.
You know what? The difficulty lies is in if the violin and cello don't listen to all of these notes, and if they don't know them really well, they sometimes can have a tendency to move ahead faster, and I'm left, oh my God, like I got to hurry up, or I got to slow down, or so I'm doing it very evenly, and not at all. It's not that fast. Where it gets to be a little bit more difficult, and you can definitely split it between the hands as you see fit, and then of course you put it in both hands, makes it a little bit more difficult. But where it really gets difficult is after this whole section. We get to I'm scrolling, trying to look for it now. Where is it? Coming. Here, this is a really cool thing because the left hand is still steady notes, but they're half as fast. And so we have the triplet quarter notes aligning with the cello and violin on the first part of the beat, but it never quite aligns with the left hand. So my left hand has to be like totally independent, keep that nice steady.
Keeps the timing. Your left hand.
Exactly. So this is a very beautiful effect, I think, here. I love the melodic. Your use of melody in this piece is really extraordinary, and I think that people will really love the way Alex Kaufman and Martine Benman, your wife, how they play this piece in our rehearsals. There's just so much emotion, and it's just beautiful. The here we have discovered that this tempo at 140 becomes almost impossible.
Yeah, we need to bring it down.
But so we've decided to make this more of like an augmentation of the theme and the cello, and then we're kind of back up to our tempo here, and you still hear a little bit of the theme here in the left hand, and it's just very jaunty. I mean, it's very exciting, lots of big chords, octaves, and whatnot. So I think the audience will absolutely love it. This is one of my favorite places here when they're playing sul tasto, and I play da 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 da. I love that melody. It's just so catchy. And then we get back to this, a return of this da-dum, ba-ba-dum, ba-ba-dum, ba-ba-dum. The whole thing just works together so well. Anyway, what else happened? What's happening here now in the trio? We get back to the Misterioso. From 32 on, we're sort of winding down.
Yes, and after there is a conclusion.
Yeah,
I felt that at this point there are so much emotions in the piece that it needs to kind of have an arch to wind down.
There's almost here. There's something about this line that's in the cello, and then in the violin, and then it's canonical.
Yeah.
When I'm listening to this and with the harmony underneath, it's definitely there's a definite pain, a sorrowfulness here, and this sort of sense of having come through quite a journey.
Yes.
Would you say this is after the exorcism?
Yeah.
And is this after the wedding, of course? And so,
I mean, this is where Chonen and Leia unite.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I would say, kind of feeling like a little haunting, and just a really haunting melody and very poignant feeling to it. It's really almost impossible to describe this music, which is why I really hope that people will tune in. You can come, if you live in the Chicago area, you can come to Sheridan Music Studio and hear us perform this live next Sunday. So just a little bit more viewing. The whole piece winds down at in this section here. You know what this reminds me of in the when the piano's playing those high notes? It reminds me of your elegy, when you have the time, the ticking with the violin playing called legno and keeping time, because it's just like, and you really have it's very effective. I mean, here, of course, the cello has the principal voice, and is it's absolutely beautiful. Did you write this with Martine in mind when you were writing it?
Well, probably unconsciously, everything what I write for cello is I hear so much cello every day. Yes.
Also for your son Sasha, who's a cellist. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I imagine that this trio will get plenty of performances before long, and I especially love the way you bring it all back together, as in the end with the piano doing these little chromatic little descending
splashes. Yeah, I mean, it returns to this space.
Yeah, and it just sort of all of a sudden one feels like you've gone through this whole arc, and you've just come back, you've come around a full circle in this piece, which is, what makes a great work of art, of music, is when after you experience it, you have a sense of transformation and oh, wow. Like, even if we didn't tell anybody what this piece was about, even without the programmatic underpinnings of what inspired you, I think that just as pure absolute music, the listener will really know what this is about just from listening. But of course, the understanding deepens when, you and I discuss it.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit, Ilya, about your compositional process? How do you compose? Are you at the piano? Do you mostly compose with a keyboard at a computer, or do you do sketches like Beethoven, or how did this happen for you?
Well, I can say, it took me 17 years thinking about, maybe 16 years. Material was kind of percolating in my unconscious, and probably about 4 weeks to write.
Okay. Wow.
It's composers, they always working. I mean, the mind never shuts down. And it's, I guess intuitively I try to delay to the very last possible moment to start really working on a piece, because I know when I start working, the outside world will cease to exist, because every moment I will be working on the piece. And I visited Legar's house in Austria, and when he would working on the operetta, he would kick out everyone of the house, so he didn't want any distractions. And
So
that's a process, and it's kind of very unsettling, because you hear music, it's constantly working in your head from the first note to the last, and sometimes I need to change this, because it's exhausting.
It's an obsessive compulsive, like when you get into the mode of composing, then it's like you just are completely consumed with this process.
Absolutely, yes.
It reminds me when my son Scott Green, who's also known as Megaphonics, is a composer and mostly working in the electronic music field. But when he was just 13, he just graduated 8th grade. So it's just as he was entering 9th grade, and school was over. And he disappeared into his room at his computer. And a week later, he came out and said, "Mom, I wrote a symphony."
Wow.
That's what it took. Like, it was a symphony. It was called the Hybrid Symphony.
Yeah.
And it was a 6 or 7 minute piece, 3 movements. And I'll never forget that. His first piece actually kind of put him, that first piece that he wrote, he had written other things, small things, but that was like his first piece that kind of put him on the map, because it won him a prize. It won him first prize at the Illinois Music Educators Association conference.
Right.
So he became the first prize winner in the whole state when he was just 13 years old for this one competition. And, it's funny because at that point, well, I didn't know if I had a composer on my hands for a son or not. But I always tell people, when I was a young girl, pianist, studying, young child, I had written in my diary or for some kind of writing assignment that I want to be a pianist and a composer. And my compositional dreams never took hold. It was something I loved when I was really young, and just the thought of being a composer. I was just so enamored with all things music when I was a child. Then I think I became obsessive compulsive just about interpretation and being a concert pianist. So it was, for me, it was wonderful when we discovered that I was going to have a son who's a composer, because to me, the true genius lies in the creation of original work. And not that being an interpreter and bringing the music to life doesn't require its own, special skills and qualities, but my hat's off to you, Ilya, for being, an absolutely astonishing composer. I just look forward to our continued collaboration, and I'm so very honored about doing the premiere of this work. And I'm excited that next season I'll be playing some of your other pieces in some public concerts that have not been announced yet, so I'm not at liberty to announce that. But I am at liberty to say we will be doing this ghost-themed concert on October 31st in person, live hopefully, we're assuming everything stays open, at the Northbrook Public Library. So, but if you want to hear it premiered, this will be the world premiere and Chicago premiere. It's going to be this coming Sunday, a week from today, at Sheridan Music Studio. And we have a limited number of in-person seats. It's indoors. And I would like everybody know that we have UV light air purification. We do require everyone to be vaccinated to come into the studio. We are going to limit the seating in the studio. So if you want to attend a live concert featuring works by Beethoven and Ilya Levinson, you've got to go to in.live. And you've got to purchase the ticket in advance so we know how many seats, what to expect. And we are really excited about getting back to normal and getting back to live concerts and live audiences, because the music is always live for like you and me, right, Ilya? Like we're rehearsing it, we're in person, we're doing it, and we are getting this live effect. But it's the audience that really gives the whole performance additional meaning that we as performers really can't live without. So the audience is a very, very critical component of any live performance. Absolutely. And we value our audience both in person and virtual. And the one great thing that this pandemic has taught us is that music will continue to live. It will live even in the absence of the concert venues being open. It can live virtually. And this is great because it actually has expanded our reach. And this means that not only are we limited to the in-person, in-studio audience or in the venue audience, but we can have an expanded reach to our virtual audience, all the virtual people around the world. So that's why this is like this pandemic. There is a silver lining in what has been a horrific year for all of us, for so many, to have gone through a worldwide catastrophic event such as a pandemic like this. I think that the very fact, Ilya, that you have come out of this pandemic with a whole brand new work to share.
Great.
It's just really, it's a testament. It's a testament to you, to me, to all the musicians, all of us who are still in this and really doing what we love, and keeping the music alive through this time. This is a testament to our passion, our dedication. And when the audience shows up to watch us and hear our efforts and our music making, that's the icing on the cake. That's what more could we ask for? So for those of you watching, I think have we talked enough about it? I think we should, the less said now, the better. We should stop while we're ahead. And just hopefully we've enticed people to come. And I'm going to stop sharing this so we can see the two of us a little bit in person. Yeah. Hopefully you and I, Ilya, have enticed people to come and hear this really incredible, beautiful piece. You know what? It has something for everybody in it. I mean, it just tells a whole story, and I'm so excited about it. Okay, Ilya, thank you so much. you're always welcome to be our guest on Steinway Sundays. And also, we are eagerly awaiting for your new Orpheum Budapest. Wait, say it again.
New Budapest
Orpheum Society, your ensemble. We would love you to be come perform at our studio. So we've got to set a date for that.
Yeah, we start rehearsing again. Everyone is ready.
Yeah, when everyone's gotten their vaccinations and everyone's ready to get back in person, we want you to be amongst the first to be streamed and performing at our studio. So we have that to look forward to. And thank you so much, Ilya. Your friendship and your artistry astounds me and gives me so much just great pleasure and love, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you very much, Susan. My pleasure.
Okay, goodbye, everyone. So make sure you come and hear it next Sunday, June 13th, 2 p.m. Go to in.live. There'll be more posts about it on social media. Thank you and goodbye. Have a great afternoon or evening, everyone. Bye-bye.